We have allowed all this television and the internet to come from Europe, from America, from China, everywhere. We have allowed the cultural influence to matter to come to us. But under our consciousness, it says we are remaining the same egocentric, narrow, limited consciousness. So this is again the same imbalance that we are talking about. On one side, matter has really grown fast, responded well. The same human being has remained the same limited person. On the other level, there are these cultural expansions and influences taking place, and again man has not grown. So what Aurobindo is really hinting at, or really concluding in the last sentence, as you will see, reason and science can only help by standardizing, by fixing everything into an artificially arranged and mechanized unity of material life. A greater whole being, whole knowledge, whole power is needed to weld all into a greater unity of whole life. This last line is really what is the conclusion, that unless and until there is this change of consciousness or the expansion of consciousness, we are going to go through this economic barbarism which has got hold of this present generation, and that may lead humanity to a point where it may even be destroyed. I will see that last sentence how Aurobindo warns us that how urgent it has become to really go beyond this rational, the limitations of reason that we discussed yesterday. Now this is the problem, but what would be the solution? Well, he will give us basically, as expected, the spiritual solution. He says, while the way we concluded yesterday, how reason has to transcend and take us to the next step, that is the spiritual age. And that we are already passing through the age of spiritual philosophy. But this spiritual philosophy must lead us to the spiritual experience, which will be the real spiritual age. But now the question is, how do we do that? Who is going to do that? So Aurobindo would come up saying, in preparation to this, there are two things required. One, spiritual individuals, and two, a spiritualized society. These are very important. He said this is the way out for the next future. And I'm going to take out a passage again from Aurobindo's Human Cycle this time. The previous passage I gave you was from Aurobindo's The Life of Mind. Now he would say slowly, there's got to be some individuals. And yesterday when we concluded saying the age of spirituality must come in, and I did say that some people have taken a leap, gone from spiritual philosophy into spiritual experience. Those are the pioneers of spiritual age. And Aurobindo would tell us here that what are the essential characteristics of this individual, when we say a spiritual individual. The basic things required for a spiritual individual, therefore the individuals who will most help the future of humanity in the new age will be those who will recognize a spiritual evolution as the destiny and therefore the great need of the human being. So the first thing is that we are all convinced, those individuals, that the destiny of mankind is spiritual, not any kind of a growth or an improvement or a development in science or technology or in politics or in society. These individuals are convinced that spirituality alone is the solution, is the aim of mankind. So that is their personal mental conviction. So if you want to belong to that new, the spiritual individuals to help the new future, the first thing is we need to be convinced that what is the future of man, and that is spirituality. Next, even as the animal man has been largely converted into a mentalized and at the top a highly mentalized humanity, so too now or in the future an evolution or conversion of the present type of humanity into a spiritualized humanity is the need of the race and surely the intention of nature. So, they will be comparatively indifferent to particular belief and form and leave men to resort to the beliefs and forms to which they are naturally drawn. It's very interesting to see. Sherwinder is not really telling us that these individuals must be psychic realized or they must be having some kind of a great experience and all that. You see, he is giving us the minimum qualifications required to belong to these spiritual individuals. First one was that you are convinced of this idea to be the spiritual. Secondly, he would say, they will be indifferent to particular belief and form. That's where we gave a hint yesterday, that they do not believe in any particular form of religion, any particular form of creed. It's not following this pattern or that pattern or this ism or that creed which is important. They are gone beyond all this creed and form. And then they would say, and leave men to resort to the beliefs and forms into which they are naturally drawn. So it is not one particular philosophy that you need to follow. You may be drawn to any philosophy of life which is really close to you. So we cannot say this philosophy is better than that, you must follow Aurobindo, you must follow this person, there's no must follow. Because this is the beauty of spirituality, that it has given us so many facets, so many roads, so many possibilities to reach the divine. You see, even our own Indian creation of this multiple gods and goddesses, even that has the beauty because it has not given us one Krishna or one Rama or one Shiva. There is Senganama Koil right there, there is another Puducherry Koil there. Every Godhead is an aspect to which human being is attracted to. Because I am not really attracted to a particular deity because my mind, my swabhava is different. But there must be a higher consciousness which responds to me. Otherwise, if everybody says Brahman is the highest truth, Satchidananda is the highest truth, worship the Satchidananda, offer to Satchidananda, I will not be able to do that. Because Satchidananda is not that kind of a reality for me. Whereas if you say, offer yourself to Sri Krishna, yes, that becomes a greater personal, feeling, vibration to whom I can really, attach myself. So Indian philosophy, Indian spirituality provided the 33,000 Godheads, so-called 33,000, only to say that each human being can follow his own belief, can follow his own deity, what we call Ichadevata also, one whom you have selected as your deity. So this is the second one. So one, he is spiritual. Secondly, he doesn't follow any particular form of belief. And they would say, they will only hold essential the faith in the spiritual conversion, they attempt to live it out, and whatever knowledge can be converted into this living. This is the important thing. Attempt to live it out. It is not just speaking about a philosophy that's important. You have to attempt and experience it in whatever capacity. But you see, slowly you can see this individual, spirituality is his aim, is beyond all religious forms, And then he is trying to put it into practice, into something that is experiential. And then third, he would say, they will especially not make the mistake of thinking that this change can be effected by machinery and outward institutions. They will know and never forget that it has to be lived out by each man inwardly, or it can never be made a reality for the kind. And this is again very crucial to believe that this new future can be brought about not by any machinery, any political revolution, economic revolution, social revolutions. Because Aurobindo does mention somewhere that mankind has gone through so many revolutions, economic, political, social, whatever you want to say, literary, philosophy. But he says it is not until the last revolution, which would be the spiritual revolution, that all the other revolutions will be fulfilled. So we are waiting for the last spiritual revolution, and that will really bring a fulfillment to all that humanity has aspired to the previous revolutions. All the previous revolutions started off, but they never achieved, because the real crux, the finale, would be the spiritual revolution, and that's what Aurobindo wants to bring about for the future. And these are the human individuals who say that machinery cannot bring about any change. It's got to be lived out, the inner truth has to be lived out. They will adopt in this heart of meaning the inward view of the East, with which man seek the secret of his destiny and salvation within. Well, I don't have time, but to those of you who are interested, you can see Human Cycle, page 250, and just to see further. Now, I'll just give you one more paragraph for the second one, that is the spiritualized society. Now, Aurobindo, while explaining this in the Library, also he tells us that in the future, or the coming future is not the way beyond. He said this spiritual revolution can come by a simultaneous existence of this, the spiritual individual, and the community and the society. The word to be remembered is a simultaneous, because there was a question already posed to Aurobindo in those times, that did we not have spiritual institutions? We have many ashramas, we have nuns and nunneries, and we have all these things in the West also. He does reply that yes, mankind has had either or. There have been spiritual groups in the form of ashramas and nunneries and all that. Or there were these individuals who were really strewn and spread around, not living together. He says, for the future revolution, these must be there simultaneously, more or less, if not at the same physical geographical spot, but on the space and time level, they are got to be contemporaneous. That is a very important factor. And there, when I read that, suddenly an idea came into my mind. Maybe that is what the mother has experimented or is experimenting with ashram and Aurobindo. You see why the creation of Aurobindo became an absolute necessity. Because Aurobindo is supposed to be the spiritualized society and experiment on that level. And remember the word, it is not a spiritual society, it is spiritualized. And there the meaning is quite different.